You can make out the screwed 4Runner up over there. That's the one making all that racket. Let me do this old Volvo. 97 960. Well, YouTube, this is a 1997 Volvo 960 with 145,000 miles. This ought to be a 6-cylinder, inline 6-cylinder. Let's see how this one sounds. Rather nasty startup. Man, that door chime won't shut the hell up. Well, sitting inside this car, it's like jumping back into the 80s. I mean, the interior just screams late 80s 740. Maybe once the car warms up, the engine will sound better. Maybe once the engine warms up, it will quiet down a bit, because these engines were always noisy. So, this is the first ever 960 that I've ever done. I've only done a startup and rev video of a 1992 940, I believe. Sometime last year, I guess. So yeah, this is my first tour. So, let's get around and critique the interior of this one. The entire dashboard's all soft touch. It's already starting to crack over the airbag, you can see. Volvo interiors these days, many of their materials just don't withstand heat that well. There's a glove box, rather tiny. Traditionally in the 80s they would just have a knob right here, but it's very similar. If there's one thing Volvos those days had, was the best AC ever. And it is just ice cold, probably the coldest AC I ever felt in years. I don't know what their magic was, but they always did that perfectly. You have the radio and dash CD and cassette. This car has a 4-speed auto. Ugh. Quite expected. This car's rear-wheel drive, by the way. I know Volvo's always had a tendency of having their fuse box behind the ashtray. They seem to have changed that mode. I know the old 740 used to have it right back there. There we go. Power outlet or cigarette lighter. Heated seats, e-brake. Center console, tiny as they always were since the 80s. Very flimsy, not sure-footed at all. I guess this is where you would plug in the scanner to read any trouble codes. Rather odd place for it, but at least it's in an easy place where you don't have to bend under the dashboard to find it like in other cars. Here's sun visor. It is padded nicely. Mirror and vanity light. Same thing follows through on the passenger side. Now that light is just old school. I think this has been around since the 80s. It just looks familiar because my dad used to buy so many 740s, 940s, even some 240s back in the late 80s, early 90s. And I've written so many of them. And it looks familiar. Door locks. Wow. Shuts with a vengeance. Those door locks sure do let you know when your doors are locked. It's like getting locked in a jail cell. Clack! Everybody will know. It'll probably make the bum on the street feel bad when you lock the doors. He'll just hear it from a mile away. Hazards, rear defogger, sunroof. I think I just tilted it. Yeah. Fog lamps, rear fog lamps, which it just has a separate set of lights on the tail lamps that just brighten up. You just turn that on during foggy conditions. Almost every Volvo has that. Door panel is soft touch up above. Power windows, window lock, and power mirrors. Also familiar controls that they've been using since the 80s. A lot of parts from the 80s follow through in here. Cruise control is right on the lever of the signal lamps. This engine is still clacky. Maybe it's just a bearing. That's what it sounds like now. Yeah, it's not engine noise anymore. Maybe it still has a tad. Legroom wasn't anything extraordinary. It was just pretty much quite tight considering this was Volvo's largest car those days. That's where the center armrest was. Well, materials follow through into the back seat when it comes to the door panel, covered in this vinyl. The rear seat is plush, but it's out of place here. You can see it shuts with this button, rather odd, but it works, at least for them. Trunk access once you lift this piece of vinyl. Oh yeah. That's the back seat to this. Nothing much. Oh. Ashtray. Should have known better. Rather large trunk. You can fit large objects in here. There's a tiny spare. Only a donut. And it's jack. Shit. So yeah, nothing else much back here. A piece of foam, everybody needs that. This thing seems to have a little thing to tow. Yep, that's what it is. This is a 2.9 liter. I don't know why Volvo's inline 6-cylinder engines of these days are always noisy. Cleared up. Annoying door chime. Shut this AC off and give this Bobo a good rev.